Clark. Clark takes her first shot, and it's a three. Substitution pattern, Danilo. What does that say about the depth of flow? Kicks it out to Caitlin Clark. Clark puts it up. She's got 8 points. She wanted to pull up for 3, but gonna share it with Ryan Howard, who puts it over to Clark. Clark behind the back crossover finds Ryan Howard. Howard for 3.
And that's an easy shot for her, deep 3.
The deep 3 is like a layup for her, though.
Yeah, it's a layup.
Caitlin Clark just exposed Team USA's biggest mistake. They tried to limit her, slow her down, and make her fit their system. But the second she got real freedom, everything changed. The offense looked better, the spacing opened up, and suddenly the people who doubted her got very quiet. Because this was never just about whether Caitlin Clark belonged on Team USA. It was about whether Team USA was brave enough to let Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark.
So many lineups. There were so many different lineups that Team USA ran during these games. And also, you guys, Kara Lawson is the head coach of this Team USA team. However, she was only there for 2 games, and then she went back to Duke. And it seems like Nate Tibbetts filled in for her for the last 3 games. I was honestly wondering if the lineups would have looked different. Like, I almost would have loved to see if every assistant coach ran different games. Like, if one game Nate Tibbetts ran the game, if one game Stephanie White ran the game, and one game Natalie Nakase ran the game. Because I personally love the way that Natalie Nakase coached the Golden State Valkyries last year.
And by the end of this tournament, the answer looked obvious. For most of this run, the tension was easy to see. Every time Clark checked into the game, the energy changed. The pace picked up. The floor opened up. Defenders started panicking earlier. And yet somehow, there was still this strange hesitation around fully trusting her. That is what made the whole thing so frustrating. It was not that Clark was struggling and needed time. It was that she kept showing signs that she was one of the most important players on the floor.
I'll be honest with you. I had no idea that Caitlin Clark was playing yesterday until I got on Twitter. Team USA was playing in the qualifying round of the World Cup, and for the first time in months, my Twitter feed was filled with people talking about women's basketball. And when I say people, I'm not talking about the wanker spankers in the mainstream media. I'm not talking about the paid propagandists who try to convince us that Unrivaled is surging in popularity instead of just telling us the truth, which is Unrivaled is the turd amongst turds. I'm talking about real people, fans of Caitlin Clark, talking about her dominating performance against a country called Senegal.
But Team USA still looked like they were trying to manage her instead of unleash her. And that is a huge difference, because great players do not just put up points. Great players change the shape of the game. That is exactly what Clark was doing. You could see it in the way defenses reacted to her before she even made a move. The second she crossed half court, defenders were already leaning forward. Help defenders were creeping higher. Passing lanes were opening behind the pressure. One player was bending the court before the possession had even fully started.
Caitlin Clark doing her best Chelsea Gray impression. What a finish. Take another look. Caitlin Clark jumps the passing lane, coast to coast. Let's see. Oh, the referee got in the way to see that. She did get hit in the head. She's making a case for herself, but...
That is not hype. That is gravity. And Team USA had it sitting right there in front of them. But instead of leaning fully into it from the start, it felt like they were trying to make everything more controlled, more careful, more balanced. On paper, maybe that sounds fine. On the court, it looked like a mistake. Because the moment Clark got the ball and was allowed to push, everything looked easier. There was one sequence after another where the difference was impossible to miss. Clark would push the ball up quickly. The defense would retreat in a panic. One extra defender would shade toward her, and suddenly a teammate would be standing there with more room than they had all game.
Caitlin Clark, no one steps up, drives, kicks it to Becker.
Angel Reese is being so good.
I think that's the first free throw she's missed this entire tournament. Ray Burrell leaks out.
To recognize the advantages that they have.
Those are the little moments that change everything. They do not always become the loudest highlight, but they break the defense apart. Then there were the half-court possessions. That might be where Clark's value stood out the most. She was not just hunting shots, she was reading the whole floor. She was making early decisions. She was moving defenders with her eyes. She was throwing passes that forced the defense to choose between giving up a clean look or letting her attack the next gap.
And we see Gustafson doing the right thing. She knows it's going to be tough to get to the basket with too many bumps.
Caitlin Clark's got the ball over to Beckers. Beckers sets up the three, and it's nothing. She's got 8 points. She wanted to pull up for three, but gonna share it with Ryan Howard, who puts up a three. And
that is why this story became bigger than one performance. Because once you saw Team USA with Clark playing freely, it was hard to go back to pretending the cautious approach made sense. And the stats only made that feeling stronger. Clark kept showing up near the top in the areas that actually matter when you are judging impact: scoring, playmaking, efficiency, plus minus. The team looked sharper when she was out there, and the numbers backed up what everyone could already feel with their eyes. But honestly, the stats were not even the main point. The main point was the contrast. When Clark was limited, the offense often looked tighter and more predictable. When Clark was trusted, the team looked dangerous. That contrast kept repeating, and every time it repeated, Team USA's earlier decisions looked worse. Because what exactly were they waiting for? More proof? More control? More time? How much more did they need to see before admitting the obvious? This team was better when Caitlin Clark was allowed to be herself. That is what silenced everyone. Not some social media debate, not a dramatic quote, not fans arguing in comment sections, proof on the floor. That is what makes this such a strong story. Caitlin Clark did not prove Team USA wrong because they handed her the keys from day one and she simply delivered. She proved them wrong while fighting through hesitation. She proved them wrong while playing in a role that did not always fit her. She proved them wrong while the team around her still looked unsure about how much freedom to give her. And that makes the whole thing even louder. Because when a player still changes the game under those conditions, imagine what happens when you stop resisting it and fully commit. That is the part Team USA has to think about now. This tournament should have ended the soft doubts, the ones that said maybe her style would not translate, the ones that said maybe the pace was too different, the ones that acted like her popularity was running ahead of her actual basketball value. That argument looks weak now, because Clark did not just survive at this level, she tilted it. She made Team USA faster, she made the spacing cleaner, she made the defense work harder, and she made the whole offense feel more modern the moment she was trusted. That is not just a nice tournament, that is a warning. A warning to coaches who still think the safest move is to tone her down. A warning to critics who kept acting like the excitement around her was mostly noise. And a warning to every opponent who thought they could treat her like just another young player trying to find her place. Caitlin Clark already found her place. The real question was whether Team USA would recognize it fast enough, because this was never about whether Clark belonged. That answer came quickly. The real issue was whether Team USA had made the game harder on themselves by not trusting her sooner. And after watching the way this played out, it is hard to say they did not. That is why this feels like a turning point. Not because Clark needed saving, not because one game suddenly created her reputation, but because this tournament made the truth too obvious to ignore. When Caitlin Clark is given trust, the whole team rises. When Caitlin Clark is allowed to play with freedom, the offense comes alive. And when that happens, all the earlier hesitation starts looking like a mistake. So no, this was not just Caitlin Clark having a good stretch. This was Caitlin Clark proving Team USA was wrong. Wrong to hesitate. Wrong to overmanage her. Wrong to act like the best version of this team did not involve putting more in her hands. And once that became clear, the noise around her got a lot quieter, because proof has a way of ending arguments. And Caitlin Clark just gave Team USA all the proof they needed.